Welcome back to Matter of Facts Podcast. I'm Phil. This is Nick. Let's cover some bases really fast. Extra admin work for an episode where we're going to talk about the government for the entire hour plus. Neither I nor Nick are thinking about harming ourselves. We're both excellent swimmers. Neither one of us lifts weights, and neither one of us knows anything about the Clintons.
I lift weights, but
with a spotter.
Oh yeah, always with a spotter or on camera.
Yeah.
Not alone in my basement with 800 pounds on a bench press.
Gotta cover your bases whenever you have an episode like this. And incidentally, we both have been doing research for the last week about research about everything that the government has done that people should be put in prison for the rest of their lives. So, there is that. Andrew, unfortunately, couldn't join us. Andrew got disappeared by the CIA and is being turned into a super soldier. So I'm hoping he's going to end up being like a Captain American superhero where he still looks like a reasonably, decent looking person. It doesn't wind up like a Red Skull superhero where he looks like he doesn't have skin, because that'd be unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, I would also go with Winter Soldier, robot arm. I mean, come on now. Robot arm?
Robot arm. I'll give it that. But Andrew couldn't be with us. He'll be sorely missed. But let's do some admin work and let's talk about all the myriad of ways that your government has done stupid stuff over the years that somebody should be in prison for that no one probably ever will, but that's another story. So the patrons fund the show. They promote our psychopathy. Some of them might actually be watching this, and most of them will be listening to this afterwards. And for the patrons, if we missed anything, then I don't know, like bug us about it in the patron chat, because we could talk about this for 3 more episodes and still not run out of material. I mean, there's a lot.
We could probably do a multi-episode mini-series on just any one of these.
The only thing we run out of is booze.
Nope. There's a distillery not 3/4 of a mile from my house. I am set.
Okay.
I will run out of money before they run out of booze.
Well, running out of money usually leads to running out of booze. Usually.
It just depends on how creative you are.
Or how determined. Anyway, if you'd like to throw a couple bucks in the tip jar, we don't spend it on booze. I promise.
Nope.
Being a patron's a good way. Spending money at the Southern Gals for merch is another good way. This makes me wonder, though. We don't have anything in our cart that is like, MK Ultra or government BS. We might need to amend that.
Operation Mongoose t-shirts with a mongoose and night vision goggles.
You can sell me on the idea as soon as we talk about what Operation Mongoose is, because that's one that I wasn't familiar with.
It's terrorism.
Oh, just terror. I mean, just garden variety terrorism, though. Does that really rise to the level of being noteworthy on the scale of things the government has done?
State-powered, state-sponsored terrorism. So no, it's normal terrorism.
That's just normal. Yeah, I mean, like, isn't most terrorism state-sponsored at the end of the day?
I'm just saying, people like Kennedy less when they learn about it.
Ooh, spicy. And Cypress Survivalist. At the Cypress Survivalist we're going to have in November, we are probably not going to talk about government nonsense unless I get enough whiskey in me. Then that and a campfire and some cigars, and like everything's on the table. God only knows what'll come out.
That's accurate.
Now, to topic, 5 minutes in. The government did what? Because this is the reaction I get when I talk about some of this stuff to like my normie friends. First of all, quite a few of them like start slowly edging towards the door. And then some of them start looking at me like I need to be checked in for a well visit. And then a couple of them get violently angry. And that's when I know I found my people.
The best, though, is when you get that phone call at 3 a.m, 2 days later, and they're like, dude, I've been down a rabbit hole. What the fuck?
Didn't I tell you about the rabbit hole I went down when I found this very first subtopic? I was literally like just Googling stuff the government has done and came across some of the stuff I'd never even heard of before, and told my wife, who, by the way, for those of you who met Mrs. Matter of Fact, she is like the most type B, chill, relaxed person you can imagine. She she was unhappy.
Well, because she cares about people.
Yeah,
that's the read I get from your wife. She cares about people.
Most people. She's like me. I like individual people.
Oh yeah,
people as a large group annoy me, but I like individual people.
If I had to choose between a large group of people and a small group of dogs, I'm picking a small group of dogs pretty much every time.
I mean, to be fair, I like dogs better than 99.99% of the Earth's population.
Yes.
And that's not even a bad thing. That's just fair.
Yeah.
Anyway, so how about we start with the one you never heard of? Operation
I have no idea.
So hopefully I have this preloaded onto my phone because I want to make sure I don't misquote some of these things, even though I'm going to completely butcher the name of these two bacteria. But basically, Operation Sea Spray was a 1950 U.S. Navy experiment that was an attempt to find out how susceptible one of our major cities was going to be to a biological weapon. So to test the theory, they parked a Navy ship off the coast of San Francisco, and they sprayed a pair of bacteria into the air in the direction of San Francisco. And then they measured what level of particulate they found in these bacteria in San Francisco. And what they determined was that not only was it amazingly effective, but that they had blanketed not only the entire city of San Francisco, but the entire Bay Area in these bacteria. Now, I know what you're thinking, Nick. Obviously, they would have picked a bacteria that isn't going to make anybody sick, right?
No. They're going to pick the easiest one to culture.
Yeah, well,
that's my guess.
What they picked was two bacteria I can't even pronounce, and I'm not even going to try. But what I will say is that what wound up happening was that 11 people the next day checked themselves in the hospital with extremely severe and extremely rare and severe urinary tract infections.
Huh.
One of these people, now 10 of the 11 recovered.
Okay.
One of the 11 died several weeks later. He'd recently had an operation on his prostate, and the infection spread to a heart valve, and it wound up killing him. Oof, so when all of this gets released later on in time, his surviving family sues the government because, rightfully so. Right. Y'all spray this bacteria into the air. A bunch of people get sick. He
dies of this bacteria.
He dies. Yeah. District court threw it out because they said that the family had not proven that this specific bacteria the Navy had released in the area had caused the urinary tract infection, which led to this man losing his life. And they appealed it all the way to the Supreme Court, who denied cert.
Interesting.
Yes. So now, I understand somebody out there is going to say, okay, but Phil, the juice is worth the squeeze. We have to know what would happen if a biological weapon was cooked off in San Francisco. So what better way to test it than to spray bacteria all over a major city just to see what happens?
I mean,
your tax dollars well spent.
You probably could have sprayed something else. I don't know, like a water-soluble dye.
Dude, we are talking about the same government that did everything else on this list. I mean, do you think they would spray a water-soluble dye? Absolutely not. We're going to spray a freaking communicable disease. That's the perfect way to test this theory.
Well, I suppose you are trying to test what would happen with a communicable disease being sprayed. Turns out they did a crap job, I guess, because it only harmed 11 people that we know of.
Well, I mean, they couldn't kill a whole city of people.
Couldn't they?
They could have, but then somebody really would have got upset.
That depends.
And their budget might have got cut.
No, nonsense. They'll just call it a false flag, blame it on whatever country wanted to invade at the time, and then call it squaresies. It's fine.
Well, that which it might have been. Operation Sea Spray. I had never even heard of that before I started going down this rabbit hole a week ago when we picked this topic. And I found out about it, and I was shocked, and that should tell you something, because I don't think I surprise easily anymore. I'm pretty jaded at this point. Like, you could tell me that representatives of our government literally take beagle puppies and stick their heads in boxes and let maggots eat their faces off. Oh wait, that
sandflies. It was sandflies. Let's be accurate.
But
in the name don't worry. They cut out their vocal cords because the researchers were getting distressed by hearing the puppies cry.
And that was, remind me again, the CIA.
No, that is the Department of Health and Human Services.
Yeah. Nothing says
HHS.
Department of Health like letting.
That's
Beagles.
Dr. Fauci.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the same government that did that to puppies did this to an entire city full of people. And it's just like whoopsies, I guess.
Yeah. So, next up, Operation Mockingbird.
Yes. So we're tripping over each other. So Operation Mockingbird is kind of an interesting one because like most of the things on this list have actually been declassified and admitted to.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the documents got burned, obviously, because you can't let the people know too much of the things that the people should be knowing about because people are supposed to have the power and yada, yada, yada. That whole really idealistic thing. But this is still in the realm of conspiracy theory because it's alleged, it's not proven yet.
Sure.
However, so before I play this video clip, Operation Mockingbird was an attempt, allegedly, I have to keep using the word, to control the media, to control the narrative given to the people. Now, some of you out there are saying no, duh, Phil, and some of y'all out there are saying, but that's not possible. That's never happened. That's never been admitted to. You can't prove it, and you're right. I can't.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
we are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about troubling, irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
the sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these things simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Well, if that don't sound like a script.
So I am going now. See, normally what happens when I cut this up for the audio only listeners, usually y'all don't get to see all the extracurricular stuff because it's just seeing a thing doesn't really work well on audio only podcast. But I'm going to make sure I include the audio from that clip.
You should,
because there's something extraordinarily terrifying about the idea that this is an alleged government program. It is not supposed to have happened. It's not supposed to be real. And yet you can plainly hear multiple news networks at virtually the same time saying the exact same
news
thing.
News networks supposedly on opposite sides of the political spectrum. ABC, CNN, CNBC, Fox. Now, if it was all Fox affiliates singing the same song, I could be like, all right. The big Fox corporate says this is the script today. Fair enough. Thought CNN was supposed to be the opposite of Fox News.
I thought the media was supposed to be independent.
Nope. That's not true at all. Although I do think we do have some interesting proof on Operation Mockingbird, Phil, in the form of artistic sponsorship.
Oh, Lord.
Yes. Some of you may be aware, some of you may not be, that the CIA for years was attempting to push American ideals through funding the arts. Arabian arts during the Afghan war with Russia, the modern art rise in the US is largely due to CIA funding art critics and CIA giving money to artists to try and make communism look worse. There's a few videos on the topic. It's actually pretty funny. Fat Electrician does a great one on the CIA's behind the modern art movement, if you guys want a good laugh. But I can't see that being disconnected from them trying to do propaganda through the news. It's probably all just a subheading of a similar program.
I mean, here's the thing. Let's allow for a moment, just a moment, that what we just heard was not like the literal CIA hand walking a script into the newsroom saying, say this. Let's allow that for a moment. That seems a little far-fetched. Nick, how many, like you do understand, and I'm hoping the audience understands, that most of these news organizations are owned by a couple of very large conglomerates.
3 to 5, I think.
3 to 5. So you don't really have to control hundreds of news agencies. You only have to make it financially in the best interest of a certain number of people, or just threaten to shoot them up with fentanyl until they jump out of a window.
I would argue you have to control none of them. The only thing you have to do is only allow reporters who agree with your narrative access to confidential sources. That's all you have to do. And they make their career, and they become the top journalist at New York Post, HuffPo, Washington Post, CNN, Fox, whatever. All these unnamed sources close to the government are probably a handful of people that are dog walking the news.
I think guy that comments is kind of hitting the nail on the head. There's too much money to be made, which is why local news is now just paid promotion. I mean, something, didn't I tell you earlier that like I'm convinced that most of this can all be traced back to like a money laundering operation and the CIA busing opium in from overseas?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you did mention that before we went on there, and it would not surprise me.
It just the annoying part about all this, Nick, is that it sounds psychotic when I say it out loud.
I mean, it
until you start digging
utilitarian, which
well,
is
no,
worse.
What I mean when it sounds psychotic is like someone could be forgiven for thinking that this is just like pure science fiction nonsense. Like it sounds too outlandish, but the breadcrumbs are all there, and that's the part that like genuinely scares me. It's like you look me in the eye and tell me Operation Mockingbird isn't real, and then I show you that, and I'm like, okay, explain that.
The only explanation is that they're all either colluding with each other or colluding with the government to push a narrative. That's the only explanation.
All right, so let's get down to it. Operation Northwoods. You're familiar with this one.
I am. So Operation Northwoods is a proposed false flag operation that originated in the Department of Defense in about 1962. Essentially, the CIA wanted to stage and commit acts of terrorism against the U.S. military and civilian targets to blame them on Cuba. So essentially, they wanted to blow up an American warship, blame it on Cuba. They wanted to do some terrorism in Florida and a few other places, blame it on Cuba in order to justify an invasion of Cuba. Now, Kennedy put the kibosh on this. Kennedy was not a fan of this plan. However, Kennedy did throw the CIA a bone with Project Mongoose or Operation Mongoose. Forget which one it is.
You will
also known as
through this one because I was not familiar with this.
Also known as the Cuba Project or the Cuban Project. Essentially, Kennedy signed off on the CIA doing terrorism in Cuba, attacking civilians, military targets, infrastructure, and various other things. You people have heard of the Bay of Pigs disaster. Basically, the CIA wanted to smuggle a bunch of pissed off Cubans back to Cuba with a bunch of guns to overthrow Castro. Well, before this and before the Cuban Missile Crisis, the U.S. snuck, I see varying numbers between 6 and 20. A lot of sources agree it's probably about 10 operatives into Cuba to train subversives into doing guerrilla acts of terrorism and committing acts of terrorism, potentially to assassinate Castro and various other dignitaries. So the U.S. was, and Kennedy signed off on this, was doing state-sponsored terrorism. Do you know what stopped it, Phil? The Russians bringing nukes to Cuba. The Cuban Missile Crisis occurred in response to the acts of terrorism committed by the U.S. government in Cuba.
The audience that's listening can't see me. I'm currently rubbing my forehead and my temple.
Phil's a little upset that the U.S. government almost caused a thermonuclear war using domestic terrorism.
And let's backtrack just a little bit back to Operation Northwoods.
Mm-hmm.
So Operation Northwoods supposedly never happened, right?
Supposedly.
Never
went into
happened.
place.
Got scrubbed. Somebody
Mhm.
had a moment of clarity and said, this is a little too far.
Supposedly it made its way all the way to Kennedy's desk.
Okay. But hear me out. There's two things.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, Gulf of Tonkin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not going to say that we had CIA assets on the North Korean torpedo boats that instigated the first round of that altercation that actually did happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that we just happened to put our ships directly in the path of them and basically, and like all but hung a red cape on the front of them to instigate that fight.
There are some sources that claim that we told the North Koreans where our ships would be, in addition to lining them up right in front of the North Korean torpedo boats.
And then the second altercation, the one that like officially got Lyndon B. Johnson into the game, that just never happened.
Yep.
It never happened.
Straight up did not occur.
Robert McNamara admitted in 1975 the whole justification for why we jumped ship to get into the Vietnam War it never happened.
Well, it was all part of the domino strategy to defeat communism.
I get that.
They had to remove a domino out of Asia, and that was supposed to be Vietnam.
But going back to Operation Northwoods.
Mm-hmm. So they've done this before.
They've done something amazingly close to this to basically like create the justification for us to get involved in a war we really wanted to be involved in.
Yep.
And then now this is where I really do sound like the crazy conspiracy theorist. 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
There are those. I don't know if I'm among them. I haven't drank enough whiskey and gone far enough down the rabbit hole, but there are those who think 9/11 was an inside job or something else. All I will say is the hijackers, a bunch of them had passports from Saudi Arabia.
They did.
And a bunch more of them, if I recall correctly, I think they were trained in Iran, or was it Syria?
I think it was Syria.
Maybe Syria. But you know where where none of them came from? Freaking
Afghanistan.
Iraq.
Also that. Yeah.
So 9/11, whether you believe it happened organically or not, whether you believe it was a setup or not, whether you believe that like jet fuel really does melt steel beams or not, we'll save that one for another episode. I need more booze for that talk.
You know,
but whether or not you
I
believe
might have
any
a
of
guy for that.
Oh, I must meet this guy.
Oh, so Phil, all right. You know, I went to engineering school for like a year and a half before I decided I hated college. I hated engineering, and I really liked playing with big, heavy equipment.
Yes.
All right. I was studying mechanical engineering at Milwaukee School of Engineering.
Huh,
all right?
My first major.
Yeah. It's a pretty decent school, small private school in Milwaukee. Excellent bar scene. You know, Wisconsin.
Can't imagine how that was a thing for you, but go ahead.
My statics professor was one of the engineers that worked on the simulation to analyze the fall of the towers. To do the math to determine what happened. Did the buildings have a structural flaw, or was it actually a jet fuel problem? The way he explained it to us, because it was a pretty big talking point at the time, and it was kind of his intro lecture into the class, was that it wasn't just the jet fuel that was the problem. Okay. What happened was plane impact knocks that foam insulation that's supposed to keep the beams from being exposed directly to fire off the beams. Okay. Some of the core support structure of the building was damaged by the plane impact. Not enough to bring the building down, but enough insulation was knocked off those beams, and enough beams were damaged by the plane, and beams got heated by burning jet fuel. So it was a combination of three factors coming together that caused a small percentage of structural strength to be lost by the building. Essentially is what happened. It was a combination of three factors. I mean, the planes were, it's a giant jetliner. It's going to do a ton of damage to the building. Unfortunately, the foam that they used to insulate those beams, they have since changed the formula on. The old formula weakens over time, and caused it to become brittle, which is why it was flaking off after the plane hit it, and why the beams got up to a slightly higher temperature, which is, I don't know if Phil, have you ever played with an oxyacetylene torch and some steel?
No.
Okay, so if you ever get the chance, guys, try this. Take like a 4-foot piece of 3/4-inch bar stock. You can probably hang off that bitch if you got it clamped to the table really good. Take your oxy torch and just start heating it up. Place your hand on the other side, see how easy it is to bend it. You don't even have to get it even close to red hot for it to start losing a noticeable percentage of its structural integrity. It doesn't have to melt to lose structural integrity.
And so now you have me wondering, because you know that I'm an autistic nerd, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at one point I got curious and I calculated the muzzle energy of a main deck gun off the USS Alabama, just, because I got curious, and I determined it was something like 28,000 30-06s going off at the same time or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
The math got,
I think it was 280,000.
Whatever it was. The math got an order of magnitude above ridiculous very quickly. I'm wondering if I can calculate the muzzle energy of a 757.
You probably can. I mean, you can calculate the energy of it, and it's quite a lot.
I'm sure it's like planetary collision levels.
No, it'd be like small meteor.
I mean, force goes up by the square of the velocity.
Correct.
I think cruising speed on a 757's cruising speed, not even talking about in a dive.
Because it was in a dive.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like
dive.
level flat cruise, I want to say is 600 miles an hour, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Raggle Fraggle is going to the Googles. You let me know if you figure it out before the end of this episode, sir, and I will put it up. But otherwise, I'll have to be a nerd about that at a later date. And PCG is saying Operation Garden Plot and Rex 84. I don't actually have those prepared, but Nick might be able to research them before we let out.
Yeah.
But anyway, all that being the case, let's say that that 9/11 was a terrorist attack and the Twin Towers fell down of their own volition. You know who had nothing to do with it? Saddam motherfucking Hussein.
Well, to be fair, he had some poppy fields and some oil reserves, and he was trying to get off the petrodollar by selling and buying oil only in gold.
How dare he?
I know. How dare someone try to have a fiscally responsible gold-backed currency?
Yes, but like that's the kind of stuff I bring up whenever somebody starts talking about Operation Northwoods. Is like, okay, look, Operation Northwoods as it stands may not have happened, but false flags certainly seem to continue popping up, courtesy of our government and its forces.
Ooh, or Rex 84 is fucked.
Okie dokie. PCG has sent us down a rabbit hole. Shall I make a banner for this?
Nonsense. We can cover it right now. It's actually pretty quick, but it's pretty fucked.
All right, let it rip.
So, Rex 84, short for Readiness Exercise 1984 Bravo, was a classified scenario and drill developed by the United States federal government to detain large numbers of U.S. residents deemed national security threats. So basically, in the event of a national emergency, which we've been under pretty much constantly, they wanted to make a plan for state defense forces to round up 500,000 undocumented Central American residents and 4,000 American citizens.
This sounds a lot like...
detain them in emergency concentration camps. This is from 1981.
This sounds a lot like a replay of Japanese American internment camps during World War II.
Yeah, they also were simulating invading Nicaragua with 15,000 troops overnight.
Does Nicaragua have a lot of oil?
I think it was involved in the Iran-Contra situation because Nicaragua was supplying the cocaine during that.
Must have been muscling on the CIA's action.
Could have been.
I'm shocked we haven't gotten nuked off of YouTube by now. That's got to be a record.
It's all right. They'll get things going eventually.
guy that comments, why do they want to put people in camps? Because
It's easier to kill them
unaliving them en masse is not socially palatable just yet. Yet. Anyway.
Oh, got the comments. Nicaragua too friendly with China. It probably was at that point.
Yeah.
Ooh, we have an answer from Raggle. 3.8 billion joules is a 747.
No.
3.84 billion joules.
I refuse to use joules as a unit of,
all right,
of
joules to 50
measure.
cal.
Yes, like convert that into something I can understand. I'm not smart enough to speak in joules. Convert it to 50 cals, convert it to like 30 convert it to 22 LR. That'd be hilarious.
We're gonna do it to 50 BMG. Apparently I don't have a calculator installed on this computer. So it's 18,000 joules.
2.95 billion foot-pounds.
That'll work. That's an appropriate unit.
That is amazing. Thank you,
That's
Raggle.
fantastic. Well done, sir.
I mean, but okay, I'm going back to what I said originally. That is planetary collision levels of energy.
It is a considerably lot.
Dude, got a comment. It's okay. YouTube already shadow banned the channel, or else we'd get way more new viewers.
So is Instagram.
Yeah, funny you mentioned that. I was actually showing Nick that some of the more recent shorts I've been posting, to try to get the word out about the show and, find a little bit of a bigger audience. You can literally watch on the graph the amount of views per over time go up, and then all of a sudden it's a horizontal line.
Uh-huh.
Like, I showed it to Nick, and I was like, dude, explain it. He said, what do you mean?
Artificial throttling.
Yeah, like, what it is. And I'm like,
itself.
but there's no rational explanation for it.
The rational explanation is they don't like our narrative.
Yeah. I do have to pause the show for a second. Joe Oliveira, hello, sir, and congrats to your son. Just graduated boot camp.
Excellent job.
Next time you speak to him, tell my little crayon connoisseur I'm proud of him.
Hell yeah.
And ask him what his favorite flavor is.
True, we can send him a box.
Every Marine has a favorite crayon flavor.
They do.
I'm allowed to pick on Marines. Like, first of all, I'm a combat vet. Second of all, like, I grew up with a whole bunch of Marines, even though I went and joined the Army. So,
well, to be fair, they make that joke more often than anybody else does.
But see, okay,
it's their favorite joke.
But Marines joking about eating crayons is like a person of a certain ethnicity using the hard N word. Like, they're allowed. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. I'm just saying, like, those.
If it's a banned behavior, it has to be universal.
Nick, are you familiar with how the world works?
Morality is universal.
Are you familiar with how the world works?
Yes.
Rules for thee, not for me.
Yeah, I refuse.
He's not picky on flavors. He just hasn't developed his palate yet. Like, he just, give him time. He'll come up. He'll figure out his preferred.
As long as it's not, what is it? Not what was the off brand of crayons that everybody hated getting as kids? Rose color? Or no? Shit, there was a terrible brand of crayons that everybody hated.
There was an off brand of crayons?
There was an off brand of crayons. If someone in the audience can remind me, that'd be great, because I am having a serious brain fart and I am out of gin power.
How impoverished do you have to be to buy off-brand crayons? The branded ones weren't that expensive.
They were not, but the unbranded ones were stupid cheap, and they couldn't. Rose Art. Thank you, Jeff. Rose Art crayons. They were terrible. Jeff and Joe both got it. Rose Art. Yep. Absolutely horrible. Didn't color for shit. The wax was way too hard, and it tended to rip the paper. They were terrible. Yeah, they light on fire okay, though.
Can't imagine why you would know that.
Dude, I grew up out in the boonies. We lit everything on fire. If we weren't shooting at it or blowing it up, we were lighting it on fire.
That was called sarcasm, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've heard that a time or two. You're a married man. You should be familiar with sarcasm.
That's true. I do use it a lot at work.
I'm sure you hear it a lot at home, too.
Mm-hmm. Just a little. She's not as bad with it as I am.
Hang on a second. If military service members claim you have served in the military, is that reverse stolen valor? Not my fault. My indoctrination to be a factory worker and soldier was really good. I mean, look, I'm not mad at anybody that didn't choose to, put a flag on their shoulder and go get shot up for stars and stripes. Like one day, another full glass of whiskey, and we can have that conversation about how I feel about my military service. Let's just say that, 17-year-old Phil and 42-year-old Phil see the world very, 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 very differently.
Rightly so. That's why they allow you to join the military at 18, because they want to get you while you're dumb enough to run into machine gun fire.
Thanks, Nick. I knew it could depend on you.
Hey, man, look, I tried to join the military too. I tried. Turns out asthma and needing glasses are not great qualifiers.
Huh. Well, thank God they got me before all my joints went to hell.
Right?
So Raggle Fraggle said,
I got out of it.
To translate that into bullets, it'd be roughly the same as being shot with 220,000 50 BMGs simultaneously.
I'm going to say this, Phil. It's dead.
It depends. What if that's Thanos?
It's dead. Hit him with a 747. It's probably fine.
It was 757.
Either way.
757 is a narrow body. 747 is a wide body. It's different.
Aviation was my first.
Aviation was my first career. I mean, we could talk all night about it. Matter of fact, you'll get a kick out of this, and then we're going to go to the next bullet point.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, me and my wife and daughter, we were watching, I don't remember what, some show, and it showed a private jet on it, and my daughter just blurts out, "What kind of jet is that?" And I'm like, it kind of looks like a Lear 25. I don't think it has right-shaped engine cells to be like, one of the 31s or one of the bigger ones. And based on this time period, that shouldn't be anything more recent than a Lear 31. So I'm going to go with probably a Learjet 25. And my daughter just looks at me and says, "You're such a nerd."
That is way too specific of knowledge.
Okay, but,
Oh, for what you spent 10 years doing, though, you absolutely would know that.
I mean... Spent 6 years in the military on aviation, several years in private, several years in commercial. Yeah, I mean, bear in mind, I wanted to be a pilot from the age of 8. And it wasn't until I realized I get awful vertigo that was just not going to be a thing for me.
I think the air cylinder is going out of my chair. I keep sinking out of frame.
That's unfortunate.
It is. I will fix that eventually by welding it into position.
I was about to say, I was going to say you should machine like a little sleeve or something to hold the air piston in place.
I'm just going to take it to work and TIG weld it together. It'll be fine.
Whatever gets the job done.
Oh, it'll get the job done.
All right. We've got we got 2 more little ones, and then the one that we can spend the next hour talking about. Regale us about COINTELPRO or COINTELPRO, as I've heard it pronounced.
Yeah, however you pronounced it, back in the day during the civil rights protests and all that jazz, the government decided that's a bad idea. You guys can't have that. So the FBI and the CIA started watching all of the Black Panthers, Martin Luther King, all the other civil rights activists, the Beatles, John Lennon in specific, and a lot of other people. And essentially what they were doing was they were spreading counterintelligence on leaders of various movements to try and discredit them, cause infighting. In a couple of cases, may have caused murders due to planting either real or fake evidence of people sleeping with other people's wives within the movements. One of their big targets was the Black Panthers in specific. May have, and some people suspect could have been behind the assassination of Martin Luther King. I mean,
given everything we've talked about for the last 35 minutes, not totally out of pocket, to be perfectly honest.
I mean, not out of pocket, but dude, not cool.
Not cool. No, duh. Nothing we've talked about the last half hour plus is cool, but not so far-fetched as to be out of the realm of possibility.
No, absolutely not. I mean, they went as far as wiretapping, civilians that they thought were wiretapping without a warrant, citizens that they thought were involved in the variety of these organizations.
Yeah, and now just in the name of full disclosure, because when I was you and I were talking about Martyr Made podcast and that whole like 8-part series he did on Jim Jones and
oh yeah, Jim Jones was
spy-
under surveillance.
Yeah,
under surveillance. Jesus.
But that series spiders off into the civil rights movement, the Black Panther, and a lot of the same things we're talking about here.
All happened at the same time period.
Quite a few of those organizations, not so much Martin Luther King's, but arguably the Black Panthers, and certainly some of the other organizations.
Malcolm X and his offshoots before he revised his beliefs and went back to nonviolent philosophy.
Well, even the violent protests versus nonviolent protests aside the point, some of these organizations were like, they were not just civil rights movements, they were also outwardly antagonistically socialist, left-wing, Marxist organizations. So like, in the name of full disclosure, you could make the argument that the CIA was targeting them because they were literal enemies of the government. But that being said, you can't make a good argument for why they were going after Martin Luther King Jr. because, I mean, he was like one of the few people in that movement that was screaming from the rooftops, telling people, do not be violent. It makes us look bad. It doesn't make our point.
It does make you look bad. YouTube is blocking my ability to reply to you guys currently. But yeah, Jim Jones is dead, guy that comments. Died real hard.
Oh, yeah. He
pretty much everybody there died.
Okay, so I will just say, and I don't usually drop other podcasts on the show because they're not paying me to, so to hell with them. No,
Martyr Made's a hell of a podcast.
Yeah, Martyr Made podcast, they did like a whole, I want to say it was an 8-part thing on Jim Jones. And if you don't have it in you to listen to like 8 3-4 hour long episodes, I understand. But the last hour and a half of the last episode is worth listening to. I'm not going to lie. I needed a moment after listening to all that. Because, I mean, like, there's so much. It's not just a retelling. There's actual audio recordings of Jim Jones talking to his followers. There's, like, to hear the crazy, the pure, unadulterated, unfiltered crazy coming out of this man in the days leading up to the mass suicide event.
Yeah, it was pretty clear he'd gone downhill with all the amphetamines.
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking and it's stomach turning to a person who doesn't shock easily at this point. Like I would like to think at this point I am hardened and jaded enough that not much gets to me. That episode got to me. Just listening to it, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, so all these people heard this and they still held their babies down and force fed them the, cyanide laced Kool-Aid.
Well, you got to remember, it had been many years of indoctrination at that point. Many years of indoctrination at that point.
And this is why Phil is not going to join a cult, because I like the ability to be a free thinker.
No, you're going to start a cult.
I don't want to start a cult because I don't want to be a center of attention for that many people. That just makes me feel
we put you in a toga. You've already got the beard. You can pull off the Messiah thing. It's fine. You just got to get some sandals.
Yeah, but I don't. I do wear sandals a lot, and I do have a hell of a beard. But I don't.
You are 2/3 of the way to Messiah.
But I don't. But I'm not enough of a malignant narcissist to be a Messiah figure.
That's like I think for.
I think I'm a nutcase. Like, I don't know why any of y'all listen to me.
Because it's amusing.
Okay,
but the news.
Well, that's fair, but I am never going to be the one to try to get all of y'all to convert to a new religion or drink Kool-Aid. That's not gonna. I mean, you might all drink
sugar's bad for you.
I mean, you might all wind up drinking moonshine or whiskey by the end of the weekend, but that's just good-natured fun.
Look, moonshine is an American tradition as much as throwing tea into a harbor and dodging taxes.
How did we get from COINTELPRO to here?
Because Jim Jones was one of the people that was being observed.
That's right. Warrants. So yeah, illegal wiretapping, flagrant propaganda and lies to try to break up a civil rights movement that, let's call it what it is. Even if you give credence to the idea that like they were going after the more revolutionary Marxist organizations, like at the very beginning of the civil rights movement, it seemed pretty reasonable to me that people just didn't want to live in an apartheid society, and they wanted to have like true equality and not just quasi equality. And the CIA responded by doing their absolute best to tamp that down and out of existence.
Exactly.
I don't know. To me, that just feels icky.
Yeah, it does. But you know, that's the FBI and the CIA for you. Generally icky.
Speaking of icky.
Mm-hmm. You're familiar with this one, huh, Phil?
Nick, I would like to think most people are familiar with the Tuskigi Experiment, but for the 3 people on the internet that haven't heard of it yet.
So the Tuskigi Experiment was a study conducted between 1932 and 1972 by the Public Health Service to observe the effects of syphilis on black men. Now, Phil, are you familiar with penicillin?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the fact that penicillin cures syphilis?
I've heard such things. I'm also aware that penicillin is like very safe and a very well noted, cure for many things. It's very cheap, very stable. Like, there's not a lot of good reasons to withhold penicillin from a person if they have a certain type of thing swimming around inside them that shouldn't be there.
Do you know when penicillin was officially invented?
When?
1928.
4 years before.
And we already knew at the time this experiment started that penicillin cured syphilis. Do you know what the goal of the experiment was?
Regale me, Nick.
They wanted to see what would happen to you if you had untreated syphilis until you died.
I feel like we already knew that before the penicillin was invented, because syphilis didn't just pop up on the scene in 1932. It had been running around untreated for centuries at that point, and it was well documented.
Has been running around the Western world and North America ever since colonization, which some people claim that syphilis is a New World disease, like an American specific disease. Some people claim it came from the East. It doesn't matter. We've known about it since at least like the 1500s. And we know what happens when syphilis kills you.
And it had been killing people for the best part of 350, 400 years.
Pretty much the entire time.
So remind me again, for 40 years we withheld, not didn't treat, because when you have a remedy and you know it works and you don't give it, it's withholding.
Withheld and potentially purposefully infected people with syphilis while telling them they were being treated for a blood-borne disease,
for funsies,
a blood condition. Yeah, basically for funsies.
And Nick, dare I ask, what happened to these men ultimately that were unwilling and unwitting members of this experiment?
They all died.
How?
Every single one of them died of syphilis.
How?
Well, except for a couple that were killed by on-the-job accidents. One guy got killed in a construction accident.
Thank Christ that killed him before the syphilis did. What happens when syphilis finally runs its course? I know.
You go insane.
Because it eats your freaking brain.
Yep, eats holes in your noggin. Not real great for you, having holes in your brain, turns out.
So just to sum this up, before we move on to quite possibly the biggest mescaline dream in this whole bunch.
Mescaline's right about that.
Your government intentionally allowed a group of men, a group of African-American men, a group of racial minorities who in 1932, you could still make the argument were horribly marginalized and, vulnerable as a...
You could argue up until 1972 pretty easily.
Yeah. But allowed them to be infected with syphilis until it literally ate their brains.
Yep.
Just to see what would happen.
While telling them that they did, in fact, not have syphilis. They had a different blood disease that they were then giving them experimental treatments for. So not only did these men die of syphilis, they infected a number of other people because they were told they didn't have syphilis. They were told they had a blood disease, a blood disorder. So not only did their spouses and children then contract syphilis, because if you're having marital relations with your wife and you have syphilis, she's probably going to get it too. It means any kids born from that have a pretty high odds of catching that from their mother in utero. So multiple generations of people were killed because of this.
If any of these people were blood donors.
Yep. Depends on if it got screened or not.
And now here's the thing, just as a side note, by the way. So handful of years ago, there was a government sanctioned program to shoot a certain medication into a large group of people.
Yep.
And I literally had someone ask me, because this was right when the story started brewing that like African Americans as a group were like really, really slow on the uptake for that mass vaccination program.
Gee, I wonder why.
I brought this up repeatedly to people, and the number of people who've never heard of it was shocking to me. But what happened after they had never heard of it was the interesting part. 100% of them told me that never happened. I literally Googled it and brought them receipts, and they every 100%, like 0% of them admitted, okay, I see your point. 100% of them either like tore apart the sources, because it's not like this is state secret at this point.
No, the documentation has been leaked many times and thoroughly.
But yeah, 100% of them either denied the sources or said that's literally what I kept hearing. I cannot believe that.
It should be unthinkable.
It should be. But this is why I bring this up all the time. I'm like, you wonder why this group of people is hesitant to roll their sleeve up and get shot up full of something, because the government swears they're here to help. Do you think there might be a reason why they're hesitant? As an entire ethnic group, they might wonder.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Just like a little bit. I mean, it was explicitly targeted at African Americans. Like it wasn't just that they were the ones that were in the study. It was explicitly targeted at them because they said, we don't have data on them dying of syphilis. They did. There were quite a lot of people that got syphilis that were not just white Europeans.
In other news, Nick, how much do you know about the anthrax vaccine that was given to soldiers en masse?
I know it was wildly experimental and questionably effective, that caused a horrible range of side effects.
Have you heard that it has been linked to brain lesions?
Yep. Brain lesions and similar symptoms to TBIs.
That GWAT soldiers have in rates not seen since World War I shell shock.
Not seen, yeah. And did the GWAT vets get exposed to a lot of explosions? Absolutely, they did. We really liked breaching doors with C4. I get it. It's fun. Understandable. Blow up the door.
So I have a version of this exact same conversation whenever someone brings up, there's a lot of military veterans that didn't get the vaccination either. And I'm like,
gee, I wonder why.
Because most of us who served in the last, 20 years or so got hit up with the anthrax vaccine. We all remember how that worked out.
Mm-hmm.
When the vaccine manufacturer intentionally withheld safety data that would have shown that, the incredible range of side effects that were present in the test group.
Some of which were crippling for months.
Yeah. Well, all I can tell you is that, my sample size of one personal experience was the first time I got one of those shots, because I was young and stupid, didn't know any better. I got violently ill, like flu, 102-degree fever. I was sick, not having a good day.
Yeah.
And we were told if you got sick from this, you should, like, at the next time you're supposed to get a booster, you should raise your hand and, like, bring it up. So I did. And a medic looked me in the eye and told me, you're going to get an Article 15 if you don't get the shot. 20-year-old me was not in a mental or emotional place to argue that point. I was still spring-loaded to the sir, yes, sir, do what I'm told position. So I said, okay. 42-year-old Phil would have been like, I choose or else. What have you got?
Or else. I do love vague consequences.
Yeah. I love or else. Or else gives me, puts lead in my pencil in the morning. I love to find out what else. Like, what do you think you're going to do?
I've got lawyer money now, buddy. I'm an adult.
Oh, I don't care if I have lawyer money or not. I just love, like, when someone threatens me with consequences, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna take pause for the briefest of moments, and I'm gonna ask myself, is this really worth dying on this hill? But 99% of the time, literally somebody. The last time somebody threatened me with something, I looked him dead in the eye, and in the most seductive voice possible, I said, "Don't threaten me with a good time."
That's fantastic.
I made them extremely uncomfortable. It was hilarious.
You don't say.
Oh, Joe's just noticing. Yes, I trim my beard. My wife and I have a standing agreement that when my beard starts to get too long, she's authorized to cut some of it off. And she took like a couple of inches off.
Noticeable. It's now able to become off screen.
Yeah, well,
or on screen, totally.
My point of view is that she sees it more often than I do. So if she thinks it's too long, just cut some of it off. Like
she did a nice job.
Oh, look, my wife is my go-to beard barber, has been for years, because I brought it to professionals and every one of them sent me home screwed up at least once. Gillian has been my go-to barber, and I get to pay her with, I get to pay her with baked goods.
That works.
Yeah.
Jeff's asking if we're going to talk about Black Wall Street or the economic sanctions against Japan that caused the attack on Pearl Harbor. Hey, guess what? America did airstrikes on a minority community in America that time. That's Black Wall Street. But no, because I don't have enough knowledge to talk about it as well as I would like to. Jeff, unfortunately. But the economic sanctions against Japan essentially boils down to Japan was going to run out of oil to continue prosecuting the war effort if it did not seize certain territories where they could produce more oil. So Japan attempted to knock out the American aircraft carriers and Navy in one strike to give them time to seize the oil-rich territories in order to continue prosecuting the war. That's kind of what it comes down to. Between rubber and oil, Japan had to attack the U.S. to continue its military interventions in China and a few other places.
So I'm rolling back up through the comments right now to see what all we missed, and I'm taking notes because apparently we're going to have to do this again.
We can do this again.
I mean, we're never going to run out of material.
I will attempt to look pretty deep into the bombing of Black Wall Street and the things that went on during that.
We could also talk about, what was it? The MOVE bombing.
Oh yeah, the MOVE bombing. Yeah,
I mean that's not the greatest example because it wasn't an obviously Marxist organization, but they were still
the Oklahoma City bombing that was arguably caused by fallouts of MK Ultra. Same with Ted Kaczynski, potentially fallouts of MK Ultra and LSD experiments.
Oklahoma City bombing was also arguably incited by both Ruby Ridge and the Waco incident. Yep. God, we're going to wind up on another watch list, aren't we?
I'm on most of them, I think.
I can't think of one that I'm not on already. But if anybody can think of a watch list I'm not on, then I'd be curious because
we could discuss how the war in Afghanistan was basically about controlling the flow of opiates into the U.S. during the huge push for opiates being given out to everyone like candy, which caused the opiate epidemic in the U.S. and is still crippling Appalachia, Florida, and a lot of southern states.
So I got to throw Guy the comments in here real quick before we get to MK Ultra to round this insanity out. Having FU money is why I understand greedy folks.
I get it.
Followed by pay with segs. Bro is practicing the oldest profession. Look, I'm not gonna lie. There might be some truth to how I pay my beard barber. I mean,
There are worse ways.
there are worse ways.
Beats digging ditches.
I think I'm definitely getting the better end of this deal than
Yes.
she is, but you know.
Well, she has no beard for you to barber.
Anyway. Speaking of which, to front load the conversation, I know
Speaking
you
of
said
your
you
wife having a beard?
No. Speaking of my wife, you are going to be out of town, not
I
next
am.
week, but the week after.
I
Mrs.
will.
Matter of Facts has agreed to come on as my co-host.
Ooh, that'll be fun.
And I told her she has a full week and a half to figure out what she would like to talk about. Otherwise, I'm going to pick for her, and then she'll just be surprised / annoyed.
Surprised and annoyed is the way I prefer most people.
Not when it's your spouse.
I don't know. It's pretty fun to surprise and annoy my spouse. I get great reactions.
I've met your spouse before. I am fairly convinced she can make you regret that course of action.
Oh, absolutely. But that's half the fun. I mean, come on. If what is a spouse for if not to slightly irritate or bemuse them?
Slightly irritate or bemuse. All right, let damn the hatches, full speed ahead.
Mm-hmm.
We all knew we were going to wind up at MK Ultra, right?
LSD for everyone.
We all knew we were going to wind up at an episode talking about government nonsense. We all knew we were going to end up at MK Ultra, right?
Yep.
So MK Ultra, for those of you who haven't Googled anything in the last 100 years, I know that's stupid because Google was around 100 years ago, but my point is, was an attempt by the CIA to see if they could use LSD to brainwash people. I understand.
Don't forget the hookers.
Okay.
Also hookers.
Hookers and LSD.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand. I am like paraphrasing a huge program, and I'm kind of taking some literary license with it. But that's in long strokes. That's kind of what they did. They just spent decades screwing around, seeing if you could dope a person up with LSD enough to get them to friggin' tell you what you wanted to.
My guy, he knows what I'm talking about with the hookers. Operation Midnight Climax, proof the CIA has a sense of humor.
Okay, so don't you interject Midnight Climax at the appropriate moment.
All right, go for it.
But the CIA Hayes program MK Ultra has first of all, it's been admitted those documents have all been declassified. At least some parts of it were declassified. I'm pretty sure a lot of it wound up in a burn bag, but that's just me. But it has been roundly decried as an abuse of individual rights, as a complete abridgment of people of informed consent. It's been called an incredible abuse of power. In some cases, like not only were they dosing people up with LSD when the effects of that were barely understood. Like, you have to understand that like LSD was only discovered not long before this program began, and it wasn't well known. It wasn't in common usage at the time this program started using it.
Arguably, this is why it got into common usage.
I mean, certainly, yeah. But it wasn't, LSD is like probably the best known of the chemicals they were using, but they were also mixing in electroshocks, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, things that these days we would call torture.
Have been ruled as torture.
Yeah, like literally, if you do this kind of stuff to an enemy combatant, you are guilty of war crimes, and not Canadian war crimes, real war crimes.
Well, Canadians do some pretty good war crimes.
I know, but this is...
Look, soup cans full of hand grenades is a time-honored tradition.
Yeah. Also, allegations of sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Your tax dollars hard at work. All this to see what it would take to break a person, to make them do whatever you want them to do. Now, the justification for this is particularly troubling because the justification was originally, well, we got to make, if the Russians are studying this stuff too, so we have to find out.
We want to see if we can make better sleeper agents than the Russians are.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like, this really became the dope dealer's version of mutually assured destruction. Like, if you brainwash our guys, we're going to brainwash yours.
Yep. Yes. Jeff brings up a really great point here. Fun fact, all the alien abductions where women were inseminated with alien babies happened about the same time as MK Ultra. Don't know. But one thing we do know is that the CIA and the FBI were at varying times running brothels in San Francisco during the Summer of Love and thereabouts. Alongside of MK Ultra, they were dosing people with psychotics. They were getting people to sleep with prostitutes to collect information on them. They were attempting to use a variety of interrogation techniques using these prostitutes and illicit narcotics. Charlie Manson may have been a victim of MK Ultra at this point in time as well. For those that don't know, Charlie Manson was released on parole, skipped parole, skipped contact with his parole officer and moved to San Francisco. His parole officer then spontaneously quit his job and moved to San Francisco to work at a free medical clinic that Charlie Manson then brought his entire family to for weeks. Or months, I think it was. Once or twice, or it was once a week or every other week. He brought all the girls and guys that were in his little cult to this medical clinic for treatment.
And they all seem to have responded beautifully to that, because I've never seen a better adjusted, calmer group of individuals.
Right? I mean, there's some evidence to suggest that Ted Kaczynski was even dosed with LSD without his knowledge back in the day.
Oh, God, that would make so much freaking sense that they doped up Uncle Ted.
Mm-hmm. I mean, some of the stuff he writes, I mean, he hits a chord on some of it, but the other stuff, ooh.
I'm going to plug that in for another day, because I have such mixed feelings about Ted Kaczynski.
I mean, the longer I've been around, the more I want to live in an abandoned shack in the woods away from literally everyone except for my wife and dog.
The problem with Ted Kaczynski is, like,
the bombings.
Yeah, the bombings. It was a little bit out of pocket.
Random bombings of people's not cool.
But his criticisms of, like, modernity and over socialization were kind of on point.
I mean, he was a bit ahead of his time. I would say that social media has done irreparable harm to a great many people. I mean, look at the suicide rates in teen girls alone. The just absolute explosion in youth suicide.
So what you're telling me is he wasn't crazy. He was just ahead of his time.
Yeah, probably. I mean, he was also crazy, but
multiple things can be corrected at the same time.
You got to be a little crazy to just ship bombs through the mail. That's not okay.
Broken clock and all that. Raggle Fraggle hit that friggin' nail right on top of the head, didn't he?
I mean, to be fair, Osama bin Laden had okay taste in games. Did you not see the Osama bin Laden hard drive dump years ago? Oh, yeah. Somebody leaked his entire hard drive. That dude loved pornography.
Okay, I'm going to intentionally not Google that later. Thank you.
No, dude, he had, what was it? Street Fighter and a bunch of other pretty okay games on his computer in the caves in the mountains.
Well, I mean, Street Fighter was a cultural phenomenon of that time.
It was pretty great.
So. Anyway, MK Ultra. So among the subjects, victims, unwilling, unwitting,
unwilling participants.
Apparently, there was 1,000 members of the United States military.
At minimum.
Yeah. Based on my experience with the anthrax vaccine, it's kind of like 6 one way, half a dozen the other. If they were even told what they were doing, or if they were just told, roll your sleeve up and shut up and did it. Regardless, that happened. Untold numbers of mental patients, prisoners, drug addicts, and prostitutes, people who did not have the legal means to fight back against a government entity shooting them up with a psychotropic drug.
You know what's interesting about those mental health patients, Phil? You want to know where a lot of those ended up after being doped up with a shitload of LSD?
The mental asylum.
Guess what closed before they all died?
Oh, mental asylums.
Yeah. You ever wonder why the homeless population seems to hallucinate wildly? Like a good number of them, especially the older ones. Could it be connected?
Apparently, there's at least one incident that was on record saying that they administered LSD to a mental patient in Kentucky for 174 consecutive days.
Yeah, that'll do great things to your brain.
I am bemused, astounded, and very concerned. That poor man's bean was baked.
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm reading through my notes. Midnight Climax. You already got that all sewed up.
Yeah.
Here's
CIA
the part.
has a sense of humor.
Yeah. Here's the part that you hadn't heard of, though. See, there's a little known footnote in MK Ultra, which is Frank Olson. Now, this is where you're gonna have to allow me some literary license, because there's the facts and there's what I think the facts lead to. So, Frank Olson was an army chemist. He reportedly, had never taken LSD, had never partaken, which isn't shocking. Most people hadn't taken LSD at this point in time. It was not a common street drug at this point, unless you were a CIA
I've found
official.
the bottom. No, wait, it can go further. This is not good. I have sunk at least 8 inches.
Somebody said you should just use vice grips.
Honestly, I probably will just TIG weld it tomorrow at work, because I will not remember to keep clamping vice grips on this thing.
I mean, it'll work out one way or the other. But anyway, army chemist, never taken LSD. He was covertly dosed by his CIA supervisor with LSD, with a large amount of LSD. And 9 days later, plunged to his death from a 13th story window.
Oh, no. Consequences for disagreeing.
But it gets better, because see, this is where you got to give me some literary license. Supposedly, prior to this, he had gone to his superiors at the CIA, and he had expressed some concerns about the morality of this project. You know, where you keep a person on LSD for 174 days and you're doping up freaking prostitutes and mental patients and everything. And he asked if he could resign from the CIA. And then sometime later, he gets shot with LSD and then jumps out of a 13-story window.
Well, yeah, you can't have your agents resigning and then talking to the news.
Now,
that'd be inconvenient.
I'm not alleging that
I am.
Hang on. Don't beat me to the punch. I'm not alleging that this man got LSD'd out of existence by the CIA because he dared to express some concerns about Icarus flying too close to the sun and the morality of the project. All I'm saying is it's a hell of a coincidence. It's a hell of a coincidence.
It is.
It's very coincidental.
Guy that comments says, "Don't trip in skyscrapers." I would say don't be in skyscrapers at all if you criticize Putin.
Should we circle back around to what I said at the very top of the show, where I said that I don't lift weights, I'm a hell of a good swimmer, I have no expectations of self-harm, and I know nothing about the Clintons? Like, let's just cover all the bases. Let's just cover all the bases.
I mean, we've already been throttled, so there's no reason for them to, Clinton list us.
Unless this is the one episode that just takes off, which I don't see happening.
It'd be fine.
Anyway. So, what else do you want to say about MK Ultra? I mean, there are allegations that this was used to train sleeper agents that would snap and kill somebody or commit mass mayhem with a code word. There are allegations that this was just being used as like a package of enhanced interrogation techniques.
Well, it was used for enhanced interrogation. It was also attempts at mind control and different forms of hypnosis. So they used sleep deprivation combined with LSD and intense interrogation techniques in order to prime subjects to do whatever they happen to want. Now, if you mess with somebody's head enough, we know you can prime somebody to violence. I mean, look at the indoctrination of child soldiers and the heavy drug abuse that they put them under. I mean, that's a guaranteed way to make a kid extra violent and to respond to calls to violence.
Yep. Hop them up on methamphetamines enough, they'll do just about anything.
Oh, yeah. Give them a bump of coke, send them out with an AK. That works. That works everywhere. Why would it not work with LSD?
So before we round this one out, I don't know if you remember, I brought up when I was doing my research for this show, the Monroe Institute.
Yeah.
Okay, so the short version of that, and that needs to be a short version because we'll be here for 15 more minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But the Monroe Institute was founded by Robert Monroe, and the idea, like this man had started off by having out-of-body experiences, and he parlayed this through self-led research into an entire methodology that he claimed allowed him to astrally project. Now,
So he claimed.
hang on, let me just lay it all out there, and then I'm gonna hit you with the punchline at the end. What he claimed was that he was able to go on journeys into the spirit realm, and some of the things he said about what he saw in the spirit realm were independently, I don't want to say independently confirmed, but they lined up with stories of people that had out-of-body experiences.
Sure.
So you draw your own conclusions for that however you like. A group of people actually like attempted to use his research, his methodology to astrally project. Some of the information that they were able to provide while astrally projecting honestly kind of boggles the imagination and the mind. I wouldn't say it's conclusive proof, but these were people that were able to draw like maps of military installations that they'd never been to, places that were highly classified, close off to the public. Like they were able to bring forth information that there was no rational explanation for how they were able to know, except that they said, my spirit left my body and I went to this place and I saw things.
Mm-hmm.
The punchline to all this is that a substantial portion of the money used to set up and fund the Monroe Institute in its founding days was courtesy of the CIA.
It was.
Because they wanted to see, was it legit? Could it be done?
Is it possible? Oh, gee. So, okay. Here's the thing. Do you know why the CIA started investigating spiritual phenomenons, offsite viewing and stuff like that, astral projecting? Do you know why? So the CIA, as part of a counterintelligence operation against Russia, leaked documents leading Russia to believe that the U.S. was investigating this as a potential technique to cause the Russians to investigate it. The Russians did start investigating it. But the thing is, the Russians started putting a whole shitload of money at this. And so the CIA said, well, wait a minute. If they're that serious about it, maybe they're getting results. We need to actually really research that. So the CIA played themselves through playing Russia. And yes, Joe, the Brad Pitt movie Men Who Stare at Goats is part of this whole thing.
But was it Brad Pitt or was that George Clooney?
I don't remember what either one of them looked like. But
Nick,
it's Men Who Stare at Goats is the title.
Men Who Stare at Goats is definitely the movie, which, by the way, probably not exactly historically accurate, but hilarious to watch. But yes, that is what Jeff Jag just said. Clooney. That's who's head.
Shows how much I know actors.
Well, but this I think maybe you got the two stuck together because of like Ocean's 11 and all that whole series where they're both in it. But anyway,
they did make too many of those movies.
Jeff Jag said might be both. Anyway,
they do tend to work together.
Men Who Stare at Goats is absolutely hilarious. But yes, that's where that movie kind of underpins itself from.
Mm-hmm.
And guy that comments, they don't give them stimulants because it turns them into NZT, I think that's supposed to be Nazi, where they use 100% of their brain and body to become unstoppable. I'm not a caffeine addict. I can stop whenever I want. I am also not a caffeine addict. I drink caffeine because it is an adult performance enhancing drug.
Well, by that logic, so is Ritalin.
Fair game. What's your point?
I mean, I know a lot of people that did recreationally use that in the short time I was in college for performance enhancing.
Fair game. What you got?
All I'm saying is if you're going to let the kids with a brain condition use performance enhancing stimulants, let everybody else.
Yeah, I think I'll just stick to using large amounts of coffee to medicate my ADHD and autism spectrum.
I was heavily abusing Monster in college. I was buying flats of that shit.
Fortunately, I undeveloped my taste for Monster. It just didn't vibe with me. But I
was
used to
drinking
drink
like 4 of those a day.
I used to drink the Monster Javas, which
I never
really
tried
don't.
those.
They don't really taste like coffee.
Classic green was my go-to poison.
Oof.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so that's the long and the short of like the Monroe Institute, their ties to the CIA. Like the CIA was literally pumping money into this to see if you could astrally project so they could go spy on the Russians. And interestingly enough, the a whole paper was declassified and released. There was a 26-page paper that was written to detail all this. 25 pages of it were released by the CIA. Notice I said 25 out of 26. Page number 25 was not released. Now, interestingly enough, someone noticed this when this was originally declassified, and they said, hey, we want page 25. The CIA literally told the voting public that there was no page 25 and that it was misnumbered, that page 24 went straight to page 26, until Robert Monroe himself, who had a copy of the report, released page 25 independently.
There is no page 25.
Yeah, well...
That's the most CIA shit ever. That's hilarious.
I will just say that, like, if you're at all interested in that kind of stuff, like Google Monroe Institute, page 25, like Google all that stuff and go down that own little rabbit hole. I will just say that, like, whether you believe it or not, the conclusions that were drawn are kind of shocking. I mean, Robert Monroe basically came out of this experience, whether you believe him or not, saying that, like, the spirit world does exist, the supernatural world does exist. There is something beyond the veil. We can't touch it, but we can see it. And whether you believe it or not is irrelevant. The CIA believed it enough to pump millions upon millions of your tax dollars into it to see what was there.
Yeah, the problem I have with these studies, with what these people have done is, yes, you do get similar reports of out-of-body experiences among Western individuals that undergo these rituals and these hallucinogenics, but we're not controlling for cultural context. Of course, when they have a hallucination, it's going to be somewhat similar if they have a very similar cultural context to these things, to religion in general. And let's be fair, at the time period this was being done, largely a Judeo-Christian focused group of people.
I want to say I remember that Monroe was actually an atheist, but I could
Doesn't matter. He grew up in a He grew up in an Abrahamic culture. So
nice save.
All of the cultural mores, all of the cultural touchstones, all circle around, whether you like it or not, Judeo-Christian theology and theography, and just the images thereof. I mean, think about it. Why does everybody, when they hallucinate, they see halos around people's heads? It's a common cultural touchstone.
No, I mean, fair argument to be made.
I'm just saying, like, it would be interesting to repeat this study in, like, sub-Saharan Africa, or say India, or the Philippines. Well, not the Philippines, because that's really heavily Christianized too. Darn missionaries! They ruined my study. Ooh, if we could get those people on the island that always shoot arrows at the helicopters, that would be great. But we'd have to give them a bunch of hallucinogens, which would probably be, unethical.
I'm pretty sure the
starting
CIA.
To see how the CIA got to this point.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure the CIA is already en route.
Right? What? There's people we haven't dosed with LSD? Egads, man.
But yeah, man, like that has been the sum total of, like, the freaking nonsense I've been digging into for the last week. Like any discussion about secret government programs that have been declassified just devolves into a rabbit hole almost immediately, because like even me being somewhat familiar with some of these topics, you find more stuff every time you look. Even this afternoon when I was reading up on some of this stuff, I was still learning stuff I didn't previously know. It's like, you know, a lot about MK Ultra, but when I was like, hey, have you ever heard of Frank Olson? You were like, who's that?
Yeah. See, that's the problem is you had hundreds of thousands of individuals potentially affected by this. At the very least, it's tens of thousands that we have the records that say, yes, this person was dosed with LSD between this time period and this time period with these dosages for this long.
Yeah.
Great. And, you know, the one thing I've always wondered is the hippie movement. Did the CIA purposefully push LSD on the hippies in order to discredit them? Because let's be honest, the CIA has pushed drugs on people for worse reasons before and since. Like the crack epidemic and the Iran-Contra shenanigans. Oh yeah, we got to give weapons to the Contras.
I have Iran-Contra on S here as a follow-up for another day.
We have
will
to
just
sell
say this
crack
much.
to the inner city poor in order to fund weapons smuggling because the government won't give us money to.
I will just say this much before we start walking this one out. So some years ago, an associate, I wouldn't call him a friend. We knew each other. We had mutual friends, but an associate of mine pointed out to me something that's really like, you ever hear something in passing and it just kind of like it digs itself in and won't let go.
Yeah.
He pointed out to me, he said he has this term he uses for mostly boomers where he calls them hypocrites.
Yeah.
A portmanteau of hypocrite and hippie, because he said these were the people who were all about, like, you know, love is love and freedom, and, you know, everything was sex, drugs, and rock and roll and fighting the man and everything. And the minute they elevated themselves to middle and upper middle class, they got a little bit comfortable, they got into some nice managerial jobs, got fat and happy, all of a sudden they started the movement of DARE, and they started demanding criminalization of controlled substances, and they sucked all the fun out of society. And then they started, and then, you know, basically he was like, the minute capitalism got its hooks into them, they totally forgot all about this whole, you know, for the people down with the millionaires bullcrap, and started deep throat and boot left, right, and center.
How dare you disobey me now that I have power? That's what it was. That's what it always comes down to. It doesn't matter if they had the money. It's how dare you disobey me now that I'm the adult.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
So to your point about did the CIA give them LSD to discredit, give them drugs to discredit them? I would argue they didn't have to. They just had to do exactly what they're doing, what they do to the media, which is you got to play ball to get the dough.
True. Could have been.
Somehow we managed to tie this whole thing up in a nice big old bow all the way back to the beginning.
True.
But yeah, I appreciate everybody that stuck with us through this
wild tangent-filled stream.
Yes, this has been like an hour and a half of one tangent, roughly dovetailed into the next. And I wouldn't tell you that, oh, next time we'll do better. No. Every time we talk about this kind of stuff, it's going to be absolutely just as crazy as the last time. I will say that for the both of us having done a moderate amount of drinking, we kept this bus on the road pretty well.
We could drink more heavily next time.
Oh, that sounds like an awful idea. We should definitely do that.
Sure. I do have work tomorrow, though. I do have to get up at 4:30.
So another week when I'm off on Friday would be the perfect day for extra shenanigans.
Yes. Yes, it would.
But we'll go ahead and close this one out. 7 people stuck around for the stream. I appreciate y'all. And for everybody else's list that's either watching this or listening to this on the back end, I appreciate y'all sticking around. Get in touch. Let us know what you're into. If you're into more conspiracy theory stuff, we will probably take that up. If you want us to shut up and get back to preparedness stuff, we might do that or we might disregard. It really just kind of depends on where we want to go, because the patrons fund the show and the patrons give us our marching orders. Drink heavy, discuss Ruby Ridge and Waco. Is it, Joe, is it really Phil Gibb put on another government watch list time again?
Yes. I mean, I believe the former ATF director was a person shooting at women and children at one of those two. He took a picture in front of smoking bodies. That tells me all I need to know about the man.
You two are both on word rations.
That's fine.
I'm trying to behave myself. Oh, Raggle, we could talk about the Las Vegas shooter.
There's some questions there. There's some questions about the Trump attempted assassin.
Okay. So if not next week, then another week. We'll find that one last government watch list. We're not already both on.
I thought we were going to talk about fun recipes next week.
Oh, we'll see. We'll talk about it.
Tasty food.
All right. Matter of fact's going out the door. If y'all have a preference on what we talk about, you know how to get in touch with us. Otherwise, you're going to leave it up to me and Nick and the patrons, and we will make a decision. Good night, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye.
Night.